Kia ora koutou, welcome everybody, and I'm really excited for our first Green Drinks for 2024, and incredible the energy I think this year. Last year was a bit tough. 2023 was just like a book to close and put in the bottom of the wardrobe really far away and forget about. But there's a real energy in the community at the moment, which is exciting to see. And it was what happened here was we put out the word about Green Drinks being about B Corp, and it was just sold out so quickly. I think we could have changed location, but we didn't want to. And just a huge shout out to Greenhawk and the team for hosting us here. So thank you. And Greenhawk have been huge supporters of us for a while. We used to have Dan as our chair and dragged him into doing a lot of stuff for us for years, so right from the beginning, and still have a really close relationship with them. One of the things that I should do actually is actually introduce myself, because I'm absolutely rubbish at doing that. So Monique Kelly, I'm currently the GM at Wow Aotearoa. And for those, does everybody know a little bit about WOW? Just put your hand up if you don't. Okay, so I don't need a little bit. Basically, we're really cool. I'll come and see you later. So what the Green Drink's really about is finding a topic that's really brings people together, allows us to network and connect. That's the biggest thing with Green Drinks, is just actually that connection. And I think that B Corp being our first one is a really good topic, because it is all about connecting businesses who are doing good. The B Corp certification, I just want to have a little indication in the audience. So do we have any B Corp businesses here? Hand up. Okay. Anybody on the way to becoming a B Corp? Okay, two more. Does anybody not know anything about B Corp? And they just think this is a really cool evening to come to. Okay, don't really. So just to go over a little bit about what B Corp is, and for my other hat is with Revology, and when we were starting up Revology back in 2014-15, I was over in Luxembourg and talking about, trying to raise money for it, which is always interesting. But I was given a piece of advice: you need to become a B Corp. And I was like, what's B Corp? It's the first time I'd heard of it. And they said, if you want to do good, but you want to actually certify and actually not have it as greenwashing, you need to have a really good standard that you're setting yourself to. And B Corp is the best international standard because they are so thorough. So in 2018, I went to kind of like this, a bit of a discussion in Christchurch. At the time, that was sort of the hotspot of where B Corp corporations were going, with the Grow Good guy and a number of other B Corps. And I had a look at what they were doing. And what really surprised me was some of the things that they didn't have in their standards that I was looking for that weren't there. And they weren't looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, and they didn't have anything about climate. What is interesting about B Corp is it's a continuous process of improvement. So since 2018, their standards are just going up and up and up and up. So now they're looking at, I think it's next year, looking at science-based targets, bringing those in. But if you are going to be a B Corp, you have to look at your whole business, and you have to look through it through a really holistic lens. So you've got to look at your governance practices, like what are your directors doing, or what are you doing as an owner operator? You've got to look at your workers. So what does decent work look like for your business? How are you treating your team? How are you incorporating them from everything from decision making through to what are the benefits for them being and working with you? Community, how are you connecting in with the community? What is your impact on the community? What is your impact on the environment? What's your waste? What is your emissions reduction targets like? It is, I think, in New Zealand, and Nadia, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're one of the fastest growing countries in terms of B Corp. We had a little bit of 150 in New Zealand, 650 throughout Australia and New Zealand, only 8,000 in the world. It's like 0.01% of all businesses. We could here become a B Corp capital of the world. potentially? You know, what would it take? That would be the challenge I'd put out to business in actually districts. I know that there's some people from Queenstown here too. What would it take for us to do that? But I'm going to now just a little bit, and I'm going to introduce our panel, and a huge thank you. We've got Kelly, who is a Greenhawk Wonder woman who has done the certification process for Greenhawk. Zoe, who's brand and butter, and now on the way to becoming B Corp. So January certification, on the way to pushing the submit button. And then we've got Steve from Taylor Pass Honey, and they've been at this now for a couple of years, so coming up for recertification soon. And Nadia Ellis, who some of you may know with her Padrona TC Real NZ hat on, but is actually doing a thesis in the benefits of B Corp for corporations. So we're going to tap into her expertise. We'll do a few questions just to warm up, and then I wanted to open it up to the audience for questions as well. And thank you everyone for being so quiet, because I don't need to scream. All right, I'm just going to go through everyone. I'm going to ask Steve first, because you're the corporation that, or the business that has been at this the longest. Can you just explain a little bit the journey for Taylor Pass Honey into B Corp?
Yeah, so when we started on our B Corp journey, I was in a position where I was the AP manager down here. And for us, we started 2 years ago, and part of that was looking at the business. And we were very silent at the time, and we were looking as a beekeeping operation. One of our questions were, what can we do better? We're not just beekeepers. We thought it'd be very simple. And as we dived into it, we said, right, we've got to make some changes to what we're doing. So our model-based operation had 3 locations. That then became 1 location. That also meant we had to make some changes within the business. We looked at what we needed to do. I can talk a bit to how I'm about introducing it to my team, the governance of it. We were, as a group, sort of slated from the top down to say, hey, we're making these changes. At the time, we didn't really understand why we were doing these changes. They turned out to be for the better as we went through it. Last 2 years, we're a connected group. What the benefit for South was, I sat down with my team. We ran a thing called lean management, so it felt like we were going through this again. But sat the boys down, so this is what we're going to do. Why? You know, we've been doing this for 3 to 5 years. Once we got through what it meant for us, so it created for an employee side of it, for my team, it created a voice for them. And we could work through and say, this is why we're doing it. When it came back through from the top, why we're actually doing it, the B Corp certification for us gave us a point of difference with our honey jar into the market. Like honey in a jar from New Zealand had the big boom, then it's dropped back down, and then you went over to supermarkets, you went over to China and be 150 New Zealand honey blends. Well, what's the difference? We focus on the US. Within the US, the B Corp certification held a lot of water. It's going in. We headed in that process, and eventually with marketing, it got us into more stores. We started to see the benefit for the group. As operators, we got to say, hey, we want to make some changes. Great example for us was one of our first changes for my field team was we don't want to use plastic frames. I said, why? They said, what's the end of life? Straight back to our suppliers and said, hey, what's your plan for the end of life of this product? So, well, we don't have it. So we went, right, and we made a shift over to, and that's the product that I was, was a big advocate for. And that then got the buy-in from the group. The group started to go, oh, right, here we go. So for us, the journey started very rough. We made a few changes, and since then, for employees, I'm a big advocate for B Corp. We have a voice. We have our trainings lifted. Everyone every year comes back and we get to make some really good decisions that you can hold your board. I'm part of the senior management group now, which has helped me understand the B Corp. But you can hold us all accountable the way through. I feel when you talk about, it's always a really hard conversation because you talk about you have to lead from the top down and bottom up. So the B Corp has given a group of 40 odd people the voice to actually drive us forward. So.
Thank you. Kelly, maybe going to you now because you're now 4 months in.
Yes,
certified.
still fresh.
Can you just tell us about the journey for you guys to B Corp as well?
Yeah, so yes, for us it was, there were quite a few reasons. The biggest reason for me personally was I just wanted our business to, I guess, have a framework for measuring how we were going against our purpose. Like, you know, we're a business up, you know, we have to make a good profit, but what can we do more than that? So it's a wonderful framework for looking at all the things that you can do as a business that extend beyond, you know, the returns to your shareholders. So when you go into the B Corp impact assessment tool, there's like 250 questions, and it's almost like this cool, like cherry tree, all these cool things that you could do to be a better business, whether that's, you know, for your workers or the environment or whatever. So it was kind of like this cool framework to help us be better, and yeah, I guess the areas that we could. And the sort of big cherry on the top, there's lots of cherries. Story, I need my Casey selection cherries. Was just to get to hang out with really cool people. I want to be having like that party with those people, because you know, when you surround yourself with people on the same journey, it's really inspiring, and you can kind of chat, and those are the conversations that I want to be having. And yeah, I guess on the back of that, it's then, you know, if we're having those conversations and making those changes and continually trying to improve, then hopefully the people that are attracted to come and work with us, you know, as you know, if you need an accountant that is into the same stuff as you, then, you know, like that was a sort of a badge that we could say, hey, you know, this is what we're about, and people can sort of self-select almost like, oh, we care about that stuff, like, let's have a chat. Obviously we have to be good at what we do as well. Yeah, so attracting cool clients, and also really importantly, great team members. So retaining our team and attracting new team, and you know, tighten employment market.
Just a quick question. Did you, like, I think Steve was taken a little bit by surprise with people being pushed from top down. Did you involve your team from the beginning?
No. Honestly, we told them we were doing it, but as the journey progressed, yes, have involved them more, but really only since the certification happened. But for us, we didn't really have to change much. We had to, like, we were already doing a lot of those things because it's how we wanted to do business anyway. We had to document a lot of stuff. But the only things that I really needed to tell the team about was, you know, hey, now we're going to give you all Southern Cross housekeeping, you know, so it was all kind of just a very different, you know, story, I guess, than Steve being pushed down.
Yeah, I think ours was driven with, is it all health and safety going to overdrive improvement ideas and everything else. So new staff came on to drive it, and it sort of that's their purpose to drive that, and it's getting that, you know, there was a whole lot of workload came onto us additionally for what we were doing. So I guess, you know, the operations that we do day to day challenges a little bit to get that across the line.
And Zoe, how about your journey? And you're still on it?
Still on the journey. We're always on the journey. Forever on the journey. B Corp is something that I've been kind of a fangirl of for a few years. But being like a smaller business, kind of thinking, you know, there's a bit of a cost associated, there's a lot of work associated, are we ready to do it? And then yeah, it was Tim from Grow Good who just said, off you go. Like, we talked a little bit about our business. And he was like, yeah, you guys, like, from what you're saying, you're perfect candidates for something like this. And I think he oversold it a little bit, but we kind of got in there. And as you guys have been saying, like, I think for us, it was this, it's like doing a course in how to run a kind of ethical, conscious business. Like, we're on the journey of kind of getting everything in place to tick all those boxes, and you know, and there's a lot of stuff we've done, there's a lot of stuff we need to do, but we kind of know the framework for like what you need to do to be able to not just be a B Corp, but be kind of ethical, environmentally, socially conscious business. And so like we're still on the journey of applying, yet to push the apply button, but we already started implementing everything in our business, and because we're a service-based business that does a lot of brand strategy, we're actually already trying to teach our clients a lot of stuff. So we're basically just stealing their IP. But it's, yeah, so I think we're excited to finish, and we will apply, press that button, get on that 18-month waiting list or whatever it is to get audited. So yeah, it's a long process, but I think I'd say to people like, you know, it's so benign. We have a few contractors, like you think, you know, you need to be a big team of lots of employees, but if you don't, then that section just goes away. So like wherever you are at in the size of your business or on that journey, there's just a kind of start, I think. Yeah.
Nadia has a depth of experience in this area as well. And I think it's going from Zoe, who's kind of like on that journey and that learning. I think that's such a good point about it. It is actually a learning process in itself. And it really does teach you. If anyone's been into the questions and started on the process, it's huge in terms of learning about how you could do business in a much better way. Nadia, do you want to just talk a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a bit different because I'm not a B Corp. Yeah, so my background is in brand and marketing and ski areas and tourism. So I was a long time led the marketing team at Greenhawk, which is where I met a lot of you guys, and then GM marketing at Real NZ. When during my time there, it was really tricky as a marketer to go, hey, here's all the cool things that we're doing. How do we start integrating those into our business as usual sort of marketing comms? It was really, really tricky. Didn't think we were doing a very good job of it. So when I left Real NZ, it was a passion point for me to go, well, you know, how can I learn more about this? And I was in the process of doing a master's. So I decided to focus my thesis on corporate social responsibility and communication. And there's so many benefits to talking about all the good that you do in the world, right? So I was like, B Corps, they're the leaders in this space. I looked to them, they'll have the answers. But what I found was that a lot of B Corps aren't talking about their certification, all the good things that they're doing at all. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? So I've started interviewing a whole range of different B Corps, all the way, you know, big multinationals, all the way down to small businesses, trying to unpick, you know, what are the benefits and what are the challenges to the certification. And, you know, for the people that aren't talking about it, they're really missing out. So why? So that's, you know, where we're right now.
And what are some of the learning that you've got? Because I'm going to bounce now on to maybe we'll do benefits first. Like, what are some of the main benefits for those who are communicating it that you have sort of identified?
Yeah, so it really makes a difference to customers. I mean, that is clear to the majority of customers. And we are living in a world now where it's not sufficient just to say, I am doing this good thing. You need to be able to prove it. You know, customers are starting to become a lot more skeptical. And some people who are, you know, they're exporting over into Europe, all of the things that the Europeans are starting to do around ESG and mandating third-party certifications and frameworks. So B Corp, it's a credible third-party certification that proves that you're not greenwashing, that you're actually credible. So that's great. The other thing about it is it's simple. You know, sustainability has got so many arms and it's quite complex to talk about it. Whereas B Corp can act as an umbrella to encompass all of the work that you're doing in this space. So definitely simple, credible, lots of internal benefits, which, you know, Kelly spoke to around bringing your staff on the journey with you, explaining the good things that you're doing, attracting talent as well. And studies externally, studies have shown that, you know, customers are prepared to pay a premium for something like B Corp if they understand it. And that's where the challenges start around, you know, communicating what B Corp means. So is that?
I'm just thinking sort of from that, it was really good to get that overall picture of where, you know, retention of staff and attraction of staff, but for customers as well. And I'm just wondering, in terms of the three of you, what are the benefits that you have seen as a business in terms of what B Corp has done for you?
Well, for us, I guess it's only been a couple of months, but actually in that short amount of time, we have had a few, you know, prospective clients approach us who we didn't know at all before, and, you know, to the point where I think we've signed one or two of them up already, who have just said, look, we really love that our values align with yours. So I guess it was a signal that they were like, oh, okay, I know what that means. Yeah, let's connect. Obviously then, you know, don't have to do the job of actually proving that we're very good accountants too. But you know, it's a conversation starter, a connection point. So I guess, yeah, we've noticed that.
That's why you got it. Yeah, it counts as one of your, yeah. For me, I think as we've been talking about learning, like I've learned so much from the process of applying, that we, you know, again, applying to our own clients as well. But I think as well, especially doing it through Grow Good. So Grow Good are like, Tim is the B Corp guy, and they have courses that we got funded through RBP. So, and they take you through the process of applying, go through every module, explain it all, and then he's connected us with this massive community. So we get an email like every couple of weeks, being like, "Hi, this is Josie. You should talk to her. She's a B Corp." And so you kind of just in that, yeah, cool little community of business owners that are all got the same mindset. Yeah.
Steve, I just want to ask you on two levels. I want to ask you from corporate level, like how has it benefited? What is the big benefit for the team or for the company that you can see? But then also from a personal level as being on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, from the company standpoint, our journey into the US basically started 3 or 4 years ago. And once we got our B Corp certification, the actual reward we've seen from that, we were about 300 stores. Now we're 1,000 stores and got national, you know, across the US nationally. So that traction and what is probably a failing industry at the moment in the market is the massive benefit for us that I've found. And then from having Hadley and Rebecca and our senior group, practicing what we preach has become really quite important to the group. So having those measures and talk about Greenhawk, and the fact is that, you know, we could always tell a story about beekeeping being really, really good or good. For me personally, I get to run the beehives to a standard that I'm really proud of. Products, the suppliers, the people we work with, we get to vet them and we have those conversations and whether you know, whether or not we actually work with those people or who they meet, you know, our ethics. So for me, with the hires, with the staff, we've brought in mechanized lifting, taking stress away, we focus more on well-being. It is a primary industry, so you had a habit of just, you know, doing 24 years, just a flop, basically. So we can't take away our busy times, but our senior group gets 10 weeks off through winter. The recap, everyone goes away, the periods paid, they have a break, and that's their reward for the sacrifice they probably make through the season. But with that said, the guys are proud of what they're doing as well, because we're moving away from synthetic treatments to more organic treatments and other things. So for me, the actual accountability and being able to measure yourself has brought beekeeping back to the purity of what it was before we shot off to the moon with Manuka and plastic frames and all this, excuse my language, crap came into the business. And now we're actually going back to what makes a sustainable, healthy, and the responsibility to be healthy function. So we do this. So equal for us in that aspect has been really good.
That's really, really good learnings. And I'm just going to put a question out. I'm going to ask 2 questions. You guys can think about this one, but I will start with same question to you, and you guys can think about it, and then Nadia can come to you. So what is the thing you wish you knew before you started the process? You guys can think about it. And Nadia, if you can just talk about some of the challenges that you have been communicated to you in terms of where the hurdles and where those challenges been, and some of the things that, you know, to have in mind before starting the process.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's on two levels around the challenges. One level is around some really practical stuff, especially with small businesses, having the resources and the time to go, okay, I'm going to, you know, integrate this into my marketing strategy, and balancing those commercial messages with sustainability messages. It's really tricky, right? Like B Corp and sustainability tends to sit in that brand bucket where it's not as measurable as going, hey, I've got this amazing Taylor's honey, I'm going to go out with a promotion, it's a sale. it's measurable. But when you're going out with messages around all of the amazing things that tailors are doing, quite often it's harder to demonstrate an ROI for that. So just some real practical stuff and going, oh, what's the correct balance here has been difficult. But one of the things that I found most interesting amongst those that don't tend to talk about it is actually mindset. So there's a group of B Corps out there that go, does it sully it, I guess, in a way, if we're doing something good, if we start talking about it and we start marketing it, does it undermine it, does it make it icky? You know, we'll be better off to just not talk about it. Whereas the businesses I find that, you know, are doing it really well go, hey, we're doing great things for the planet and for people. We're making money in the process and we're going to talk about it. And we're not concerned about the naysayers or the, you know, the potential backlash of a small minority. People are scared, you know, businesses are scared. They're scared that they are going to make a misstep and they're going to be cancelled, you know. And so sometimes it's easier just to be quiet and not talk about what you're doing. But the reality is that talking about B Corp raises awareness. You know, as soon as people understand it, all of the benefits flow on from that. And so businesses just have to, you know, I just encourage all those businesses, be brave. It's not necessarily, you know, commercial is not bad. They can work hand in hand. And that's what B Corp is all about, right? Profit and purpose together. So yeah, it's nice
anyone want to tackle this one first? What was the thing you wish you knew you had known for clicking on the go button? And for you, I think Steve, what do you wish that Hadley had tell?
Yeah, I think, you know, a bit of vision and end goal could have been explained better, the actual power that it gave us and why we were doing it. That message would have definitely brought support quicker, especially like I said, we did a massive change. So part of that was we used to extract our honey on site and we packed on another. So we had to drop the extraction on site, and particularly in the main base, to then be able to pack to bring everybody out. Now, when we're passing on that information, we probably could have got across why we were making these changes, and that helped with emissions and energy and staff and communication and everything else. At the time, big change like that, the company like that was full. And then, oh, we want you to do all this. Well, why are we doing this? So, yeah, I mean, it's not as onerous as what we thought it was. We hit it like a big landslide, and we just tried to do, like, I think, yeah, we look at it and be real proud. In the first 3 months, we made 150 documented improvements within our operation. And they were just small things, but it was just like, you know, our thought was we need to get X a month and everybody needs to put in X amount to happen. But in reality, is once you get on that path, it's just maintaining, you know, a little bit each month, a little bit of improvement is all you require. And as we come up for recertification, I think, you know, we're doing our treaty lighting piece and we basically sit down and look at it. So, it's, you know, these little bits is actually just keeping us on track for vehicle certification. So we just went way too fast, slowed back up, and now up to the how's it going. So it's just, yeah, the only thing I can say is it's not as onerous as what we made it start with. We made it very difficult and we found out it was actually.
It was okay.
It was okay.
But communication for the whole thing.
For me, it was probably the opposite. I probably underestimated just how much time it would take. You're obviously very different, like we weren't changing our operations or anything like that. But yeah, I think it probably took me guessing that maybe 60 hours of work, which, you know, not every business person or someone in your organization has time to do that. As a business owner, and I don't do much client work, I was able to kind of make that my main project for quite some time. But it did take quite some time. A little bit more time.
Which is good to know before going into it, because you have to carve out what
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I guess my answer is similar to yours, but the other thing maybe is like a tricky answer, not quite accurate answer to your question, but that to kind of, when you're just starting a business and you want to go through this process, like if you kind of knew at the beginning there's a big emphasis on like suppliers and the people you choose to work with, and to start kind of like when you sign up for your 2-year subscription to Squarespace, like if you kind of knew that was not going to be an ideal service provider with the application process. So like kind of maybe having a little bit of insight into some of the things that you were going to need to think about earlier on, and then before you signed up to like, you know, a non-B Corp accountant, or you know, I think that maybe, yeah, as I say, not an exact answer to the question, but yeah.
Knowing a little bit more about it. But did you find that there were enough resources when you started? Like, how do you find in terms of finding resources and support to go through the process?
Through the Grow Good guys, yes. But I think it was like more so that they were like, you know, you have to really write down everything. You've got to really start going, okay, this is who our bank is, this is who our accountant is, this is you know, website hosting, everything. And so when you've kind of already made the decision to be with someone who's not a B Corp, then you've got a lot, you know.
Send them a message and say,
yeah. Well, that is the cool thing about it though, is like you kind of have to go ask all these people questions, and by asking them questions, you're like, you know, I got emails back from Shopify being like, actually, yes, we have an impact strategy, and like, here you go, or just no reply from Squarespace at all, which I think is telling in itself. So it's good that you ask questions and then they have to think about the impact to be able to answer you. And yeah, so in that sense, it's good. Yeah.
I am going to, maybe if you guys are okay, just open it up to questions from the audience. So just raise your hand if you've got any questions that you want to ask.
Is there limitations to the type of businesses that can become B Corp?
You have to be a for-profit business. You can't be a charity. And then you can't sell cigarettes
Or
gambling.
no
Gambling.
Yeah.
So there's no categories, industries, but other than that, you just have to be a for-profit business of any size.
Yes, because you could, like I was saying, like if there was a person on our course that was just like one person who ran a design studio, and it just takes away from the category that's not relevant. Yeah.
What if you're on that, if you're like on selling and you have very little control of what your wholesalers are doing?
It's about having a conversation, so it's about measuring your impact, and then having, like, do you have a policy in place that, you know, these are the type of supplies that you would use, or like what are the conversations that you're having with these people? So it's like showing that you're trying to kind of communicate with them, and like these are your policies, but choosing the right suppliers. Yeah.
I'm not sure that there is much in the wholesaler, like the on selling side, but there's certainly lots around suppliers. But yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure how much the focus there is on what happens after you.
And some of the B Corps that I've spoken to said, you know, that's when it does become quite challenging, right? It's when you're making a decision around going, am I going to work? Am I going to sell? I'm going to take this person on as a client. And that's when the rubber hits the road, right? You're like, this is actually costing me money now because I want, you know, I'm not going to engage this client because of, you know, they don't align with us from values perspectives. So.
No, I think there was nothing about Squarespace. So if you were signed up with something like that already, and then they're not a good business, do they want you then to sign up with someone new, or just?
I haven't been past the, like, you've been audited. So I think that, like,
Work.
yeah, exactly. But I think
No.
yeah.
So that particular reference, there's a category, question around suppliers. So, you know, do you know the makeup of your suppliers? How many are, you know, from unemployment minorities, or sort of all these categories where you can kind of get points effectively. So you don't have to get points in every question, but overall, you know, at the moment, the way that the standards work, you need to get 80 points out of 200. It doesn't seem like.
No, but they had to get.
But they had to get. I think when I first went in, because I was like, oh, I don't think we're going to have to do much. Like, I think we're pretty good. Like, well, I think we got 50 points, which is the standard for most businesses who do the VIA. Yeah, so we had to do some work, but you don't have to do every question.
I might control for saying this, but I kind of liken it to NCEA. You can kind of go, okay, I just need to achieve. But like, if I want excellence, then I'm going to really push it. You know? You can see how I got through high school.
Is there cost associated, annual subscription or fee or?
Yeah.
Oh, you put-
1,500.
Yeah, it's based around revenue, so you pay for, and you recertify every 3 years, so if there's like a revenue band, I think.
But you can go through the whole process up to being certified before you pay anything. So that whole learning journey, all of
Yeah,
that is free. Stealing IP, just take it.
And so you get bail.
No,
And it's quite reasonable for a small business. It's actually, they do have that range and pays. I can't remember exactly how much it is for a smaller business. It's a couple of.
no, still like 1,500 or so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not astronomical, it's doable. But the depth of, in terms of how thorough it is, it's probably one of the most economical certification systems out there, I'd say.
Like not to put the sustainable business network, but you pay like $750 for that a year, and you kind of get a little logo. Whereas,
How I
yeah,
look at that.
yeah, we do it. That's that.
How I
Yeah.
look at that though, is I reckon that is in a, like we're sponsoring SBN to do their good.
Yeah.
So I do.
Yeah,
But I was like.
definitely.
I first became aware of B Corp about 18 months ago, and I was quite impressed. And then I thought, well, are many companies actually doing this? And I wonder whether it's actually being pushed by NB or NPI and the other government agencies to actually get things going. And why isn't there a better awareness around the place? So I'm sure if you went up the average person in the street and said, have you heard of B Corp companies? They'd say, well,
Probably speak to that a little bit as well. There has been, to quote somebody I talked to, it's a bit of a chicken and egg sort of situation. If nobody knows about it, then why should businesses promote it externally? Because it doesn't mean anything. But then if they don't promote it, then nobody's going to know what it means. And so it's this circle. And there has been a little bit of pushback on BLAB, or why isn't BLAB promoting BLAB? But as we've just sort of discussed around, it's cost effective. They're a not-for-profit, and so they don't have the resources. They're not a marketing agency, right? They don't have the resources to promote B Corp. So they're relying on the actual B Corps to do the promotion. So it sort of spins. And there seems to be more around some of our larger B Corps in New Zealand, and understanding now in the role that they play to drive awareness. And so right now it's starting to gain momentum. And so it's a really good time to get on board, because I think as it continues, it's just going to snowball.
I think
No, I think government is focused on their own. They've got a few other certificates.
But then in saying that RBP funded us, which is government, to be able to do it. So in a roundabout way, there is government support.
That's cool.
There was a question over.
From a transparency point of view, because you don't have to get 100 points, right? So you don't have to tick all the boxes. How do people know whether, say, you're awful at your labour practices, or you haven't measured your carbon footprint, but you're still, are there minimums in each area?
So when you go through it, you actually have to come up to a minimum standard, and then to be ready to actually achieve that. So you can't just say, I'm going to forget about the workers. I'm just going to focus on the environment, for example. You actually have to achieve the points within that. You actually have to do well by your employees or in your governance. What I find really interesting is it's a certification that also looks at your governance structures. So, how you actually all the way from top right down to workers, incorporating this into your practices. So it is quite stringent, and it does seem for the NCEA game players, it is quite stringent. And I'm not sure actually in terms of transparency, do you have an open book policy with your certification and with what you have done, so that others can come in and verify as well? Or are you just sort of relying on the B Corp certification auditor to put their stamp on it?
On the so transparency is part of, I guess, the ethos of B Corp, but so on the B Corp website, you'll be able to look up any business that's a B Corp and it will say their overall score and what they scored in each of the 5 impact areas. However, it doesn't go into detail like this is how every, say, for example, you know, did you do the supplier audit or did you not? It wouldn't go to that level, but it does say, yeah, those 5 areas.
And I think it's quite helpful as a business applying, and you can go in and go, okay, what are the brand agents that have applied? Where did they actually score quite well and go? So there's like IBM, so impact business models within each section that you kind of have to go above and beyond to be able to get, and then to kind of understand what other types of business are achieving these. And okay, is that something that I can then work towards as well? So I think there is a good amount of like shared knowledge around how everyone else has gone in that process too.
You know, and it's not a perfect system. You know, there's quite a lot of press around espresso and working practices. And you know, they didn't, but they achieved overall. And I do wonder if that's part of the reason why B Corp's evolving their standards. But the flip side of that is that the B Corp, it's a movement that is inclusive. And you know, they're trying to get everybody on the journey. And so when you have a player like Nespresso come in, sure, they've got a ways to go, but they're on a journey along with the rest of the B Corps, and they're doing massive things around raising awareness of the movement. So there's definitely that tension there between, you know, they're overall good, but there might be this one aspect which is pretty questionable. So, you know, it's not perfect, but it's.
I think one of the things that just in terms of that transparency before I can talk about is that it is a continuous improvement. So if you look 2018, nothing about climate or sustainable development goals, all of a sudden they've been brought into it. So when you come up for review again, you are constantly evolving as a business and upping your practices, which is what I really like about this. It's not set in stone. You don't get a stamp and have it for life. It's constantly improving and learning.
Well, I had a question around when she clicked the go button, the verification of the audit process. How long does that take? And how does that actually involve?
Yeah. Yes, I think once I clicked yes, like initially someone sort of gets in touch, cool, thanks, we've got all we need. It's probably then 8 months before I heard something after that, just because of the volume of businesses that are applying. And I think, you know, they're adding staff, so hopefully that's coming down. So then you're in like, there's different queues, like you're in the something other queue and then something like certificate, the verification, I don't know, different queues. And then, so the first sort of gate is they're looking through all the documents because you have to upload proof of all of your claims, obviously. If they've got any questions, they'll come back and ask. It's all done within the system. And you've got a certain amount of time to respond. That it's quite, you know, lenient, you don't have to do it the next day. And then once you've kind of done all that and they're happy that, you know, you've checked those boxes, then the next part is an actual phone conversation with the next verifier person. And that was like an hour kind of deep into some more questions, in certain areas. And then, so maybe like, yeah, it might have been 10 months. I think
it's longer now.
I thought it would speed up.
When we were starting our application, they said that there's just a big bottleneck. There's so many people applying right now that it's just taking, which is good.
Probably 2 other questions, abilities.
Thank you, panelists. This is amazing. I'm curious, knowing what you know now about the process for applying, but then also some of the benefits. Would you advise businesses to get certified earlier on in their lifespan or maybe later in the process? Or it doesn't matter the timing for businesses in becoming certified?
I'd say early because it teaches you how to do it. Like we were quite lucky in that going through the process is really, you know, there's a lot to go through, but we could build our business based on what it was asking. You know, so like, yeah. And whereas, like, I think, you know, in your case, you have to change things and you have to convince people to change things. And yeah, started soon.
Yeah, we've experienced some cost alongside it with making changes. So when I talk about frames and stuff like $2.15 to $4.85, and you spend 30,000 a year on gear replacement, and within that packing plant, wasn't as big when we looked at it. We laid out between glass and recycled plastic packing, and we went away from glass because the energy used. That was about $5,000 more to get into the pack. So it wasn't a huge expense across the size of the operation. But I think later you start, you've got habits, you've got things you've got to do adjustments to. So if you're happy to wear a little bit of that cost, but I think it's I'm for it. I think it's great what we did. So.
Yeah, like we technically, sorry, don't have any employees, but we will have a breastfeeding policy and so I think once your company starts growing, then you would sort of like, yeah, do you guys have a breastfeeding policy?
It's good to see though that there's the well-being, there's the thought, there's a real thought, whether it's breastfeeding or not.
That's for us, like, beekeeping is notorious bad backs, floating body, and we've been able to push, bringing in that lift on equipment and actually taking care of ourselves a lot more. And when we bring on new staff and young staff, the health and safety is all part of the training. You actually push that on more and more, and if you see people doing things incorrectly, or you start to pick up on someone's starting to hurt, you say, well, go home for the day, take breaks, let's get you in the season, let's make sure we make those adjustments. And that's all part of that, ethics and, social well-being, as well as mentally, you're on pain, mentally, you're struggling. So that's been great for our team to be able to say, hey, stick your hand up on below the line today, this is what I need. So
cool. I think that speaking with Taylor Pass Honey and Hadley, who's the CEO, is the biggest thing I got out of the conversation with them is the shift in culture, and that's being rippled out throughout all of the team as well, which is massive. And just hearing, the ripple on benefits of what has happened is really neat. So I'm just maybe going to ask maybe one more or two more questions. Who's got a burning question? Anyone?
I would like to know, and I don't know if you guys do know this, Nadia, you might, but is B Corp the one? Like, there's a lot of talk about ESG being sort of mandated foundation for businesses having like a mandated ESG foundation. Is B Corp the way to certify yourself?
No, B Corp is not the one, because I started down the path of looking at ESG frameworks, and one of the challenges around that is that there's multiple ones. I can't remember what they are, but there's a number of them. Like ISO has one, and then there's a couple of others, which becomes really problematic because you're not comparing apples with apples. And then, like especially in apparel, you've got the Walmart and you've got FLA and you've got, like there's a whole multitude of different certifications, which becomes really complex for customers, for your supply, but one of the advantages of B Corp is that it's really holistic. And so there's a lot of companies getting on board because it's really holistic and it's sort of like one label to rule them all. So,
one other question, if anyone's got anything.
What's the origin story? Where's that known that start? B Corp?
Oh,
college 2006.
Okay.
We can tell it that was.
No, I was like 2006, 2008, American guys, right?
Yeah, there's three of them. I can send you the YouTube. I watched it this morning, but now it's all gone out.
There was a shoe company called E1, and they built the business, with basically what B Corp has now tried to build it into the business, and then sold it or put it on the, public. And then all of that stuff just got ripped out of it. So they were like, okay, how can we create like a standard for business that has to be implemented and like goes through policy and governance and everything. And so no matter who's in charge or who's managing, like it has to be this way. And so then that's kind of went from there. I just listened to a podcast morning in preparation.
Thank you guys for doing your, that was pretty good. I will just round it up there because I think we've been about an hour, but huge thank you to all of you for coming out tonight and all of the amazing questions. It was really great to see and just the interest, and you could have heard a pin drop, which means that the conversation was really good. So you guys, thank you so much for volunteering to come up. Zoe sent me a little message saying, you know, I'm not a B Corp. And I was like, that's the point.
Now you do regret that advertising the UCA thing.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone for coming onto the panel. Big shout out to Greenhawk as well, for putting this on. Babu, I want to just do a massive shout out to you for organising this because you're wicked. Thank you. And just before we close out and everyone can sort of have a drink and network again, we've got Film Festival coming up 9th till the 12th of May, and it's another opportunity just to open your eyes. There's some really cool films coming. We're just going through the program at the moment, and it's all about inspiring. Like, I think that the biggest thing is it's a really good book just come out by Hannah Ritchie, and if anyone's been into revology, you know that I have kind of passion for books and kind of curating some really good thought leaders in this space. But Hannah Ritchie's written a book, and she talks about the time in history that we're at. I think the book's called "It's Not as Bad as It Seems," which I think is a great title. You're holding in your hand, and we are at the moment, these three things. At one point, and being Jim Saliger's Sunday and his forecast was just like, and it can be quite overwhelming, and you have to hold that kind of like, angst in this hand. And in this middle hand, you're going, well, actually, I'm here now. This is actually really cool, and I'm really neat space to be, and we're not actually that bad. It's okay. And on the other hand, you go, shit, this could be so much better. And you look at the B Corp, and imagine if all companies became B Corp. What is the impact of that? And how are we going to change our economic makeup? And that area there is where our focus is on. We focus on, we're not too bad, we're okay, but we could be really, really good over here. So we just need to find out how to get there. Like, what are the levers that we need to pull? And we have an opportunity in this community, I think, to really lead in terms of what can happen with this, because we have the capacity, and we've got the skill set, and we've got experts in our community that we can tap into to help us along the way, including those who are further along the path than some of us. So I just want everybody to leave with that thought is actually come to the film festival because we but also that thought of it's actually holding those three things at once in our hands and knowing that things will be way better and we can make them way better.